Hello, everyone. This is Tom, the Lone Wolf Prepper, and welcome to the Lone Wolf Prepper channel for my Sunday night live broadcast. Anyway, a few YouTube-y stuff. First thing, I tried to buy an American flag this weekend. That's what I wanted to put behind me instead of that one. But since I couldn't find one, that's one that's going up there for now. So if it offends anybody, I don't care what you say. It's part of our history, and that's just the way it is. It doesn't stand for slavery. It was a flag for another country that had slavery. Okay? So anyway, that's the deal on that. Anyway, yeah, thank you for all the subscribers. The channel is growing, and YouTube's definitely playing their games, but we're 58 days away from the election. And you can say I'm, motivated, and I got a sense of urgency. Hi, Carol. How you doing tonight? Anyway, and, something needs to be done. Civil unrest is just around the corner. We need to do whatever we can to get the word out. And that's one reason why my shorts have been more politically, hi, Kristen. More politically directed. It's time for political cartoons. And when they're as much of a joke as they are, it's pretty easy to come up with them. Anyway, I'm liking all the comments, okay? If you got to be rude about it, that's fine. Whatever it takes to get the conversation going. But just remember, you're going to have to drop your hate if we want to fix our problems. So, with these comments and stuff, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm thick-skinned. I'm not going to come on YouTube so somebody can try to hurt my feelings. It just shows that you're not at that level of wanting to be civil and solve the problems yet. Okay? Finger pointing, name calling. I'm 57. I'm not going to deal with a 6-year-old. Okay? And that's just the way it is. So anyway, that's enough of the channel stuff. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes. Paul Harvey's If I Were the Devil. Back in 1965, 59 years ago. And I figure I'll read it first. Well, what in the world do I got going on here? Okay, I'm sorry. If I were the devil. If I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness. And I would have 1/3 of the real estate and 4/5 of its population. But I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. So I'd set about however necessary to take over the United States. I'd support the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers with the wisdom of a serpent. I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. The young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide what is bad is good, and that good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, O Father, art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning in the flames. If I were the devil, I'd encourage schools to refine young intellects, but to neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild before you know it, you'll have drug sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have the prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, from the schoolhouse, and from the House of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make a symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I would take from those who have and I would give to those who want it until I killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what would you bet I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as a way to get rich? I would caution against extremism. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that your marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be, and thus I could undress you in public and I could lure you into my bed with diseases for which there is no cure. If I were the devil, I would just continue with what I'm doing. "59 years ago. And the thing is, if he saw it back then, obviously it was bad back then. You know, there's some things he didn't foresee, you know, such as the sexuality of children and stuff. But anyway, we'll get into this right away. Okay. The first line. If I were the prince of darkness, I'd engulf the whole world in darkness. I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness. Wars and rumors of wars. We got a hot war going on between Ukraine and Russia. We got a war going on between Israel and Hamas. We got all those people in Sudan. I can't remember the Houthis. Okay. And then you got rumors of wars. China and Taiwan, North Korea, South Korea, Iran and Israel. You know, and the funny part about it, we're paying for all this. Okay. We're paying for all this darkness. It's crazy. I go to work to make the world an evil place. I got to figure out a way to live without money. I'm sure my boss won't have a problem not paying me, but I got to just figure something out because I'm contributing. You understand? It just really bothers me. But and then what are these wars for? You got Lindsey Graham and you saying about Ukraine, well, we can't let Russia get Ukraine. There's trillions of dollars in resources in that country. So obviously we haven't exploited that country enough, so Russia can't take it over. Okay? Lindsey Graham he's an idiot, okay? I tell you what, when Russia starts wanting to off our politicians, he's number one on their list. You know, do unto us, you want done unto you. You want to sit there, Lindsey, and sit there and tell our enemies, you know, we ain't gonna, that one Hamas leader, we ain't gonna charge you. We ain't gonna indict you. We're just gonna kill you. Okay? And then the rumors of wars. What's that doing? Oh, that's getting the military-industrial complex rich, isn't it? I mean, almost $1 trillion a year we spend on defense. More than, I don't know, the top. It's a lot of countries. China, Russia, England, France. We beat them all. Okay? And it's amazing. We still can't beat guys in pickup trucks, Toyota pickup trucks, because they got a machine gun stock on the back, I guess. We can't beat them. You know, it's crazy. And then we leave $85 billion of it in Afghanistan. So now they got to grade A military. Boy, what nice things we are, aren't we? But, another thing, they install fear with these rumors of war. I mean, how many times you go on YouTube and hear somebody tell you that? I mean, how long ago was Iran supposed to attack Israel? Never happened. Rumors, but hey, you know what? A lot of YouTubers got a lot of clicks for that. I never fell for it. They're trying to egg Iran into a war. They're trying to egg Russia into a war. Darkness all over the earth. I mean, World War III is going to be a lot worse than World War II, just like World War II was a lot worse than World War I. This is what happens when maniacs get in charge in countries because the citizens let them. Okay, it's just maniacs in charge all over the world. Anyway, and then, okay, that was that part of it. I want to get through this kind of fast. Good evening, Tuck BV. I don't know how to say that. I'm sorry. TUKBYYV. Okay, cool. That's somebody new. I appreciate it. They welcome to Lone Wolf Prepper Channel. Anyway, the next one. Okay. And I would have a third of the real estate and 4/5 of its population. A third of the real estate. This is one thing I want to bring up too. We're not just fighting one devil. Or maybe we're fighting one devil, but we're fighting all those minions he's got doing this stuff. A third of the real estate. Can anybody think who owns a third of the real estate? BlackRock come to mind? Crazy. Okay? And 4/5 of the population. They're trying to control the West. Okay? They're trying to control the West. And, the U.S. They need the U.S. Okay? But, yeah, a third of the real estate. I mean, it's crazy. I can't believe this. I used to listen to Paul Harvey all the time when I was a kid. He was on every radio station that was where I grew up, especially back then. And I like some of his stories he would give. And then at the end, he'd be like, holy cow, about how people feel good stories. But, for him to come up with this, I mean, I don't know if this is something he sat and thought about or just was observing one day and this is what he came up with. Okay? But yeah, they actually got more than a third of the real estate, especially after the housing bust. Okay? But that's what's going on. Crazy, isn't it? Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. The BlackRock and the government's trying to take over the populations. Okay. But I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. So I'd set about however necessary to take over the United States. Why is the United States so important? Why not that the United States has to fall. Our way of life, our culture has to fall. Okay, you know why? Because our culture, the way our country is, our society, is the last beacon of light for a lot of people in this country. Okay? That's why they're all coming here. There are no cats in America, and the streets are filled with cheese. There are no cats in America. You can set your mind at ease. That's the way they're coming here. A lot of people, when they came here years ago, they knew they had to build their own life. They weren't given a life. How'd you like my singing? See, I still remember stuff from movies I saw a long time ago. Anybody remember where that's from? Anybody remember the first American Tale when they're on the ship and stuff coming over to America? Anyway, but yeah, we're the last beacon of light. It inspires others. It inspires the the detrimental of the state. Yep. But anyway, they got to shut us down. Remember, we're the great experiment. There was never a country like us before where a man could be born of nothing and become president. Just depending on how much determination and ambition he had and good moral character back then. Where they're allowed to govern themselves, pursue their happiness. They're allowed to have guns. They're allowed to be free thinkers and follow your dreams. I mean, this country was founded by people following their dreams. Everything we use every day in our everyday life was invented by people following their dreams, not by the government. The government's never invented anything. They just took people that invent stuff and had them work for them, make them stuff and stuff. The government's never invented anything except giving people a hard time. Anyway, yeah, people be able to take their lives into their own hands. America prospered. Remember, they sent the criminals over here first. This was a bad place to go. Maybe they were criminals over there and they just didn't fit in because they wanted to be independent. I find it weird, okay? And then another thing about our civilization, America. Where would the world be right now if there wouldn't been the United States of America, where people could follow their dreams and we had Henry Fords, people like that, Alexander Graham Bell. America still invented the transistor, which revolutionized electronics. Okay? Where would the world be if they were still under the old European of everybody under their thumb? The government basically controls progress, not the guy in his garage. Innovative thinking and stuff. And then we prospered. In the 50s, late 40s, 50s, and 60s, and early 70s, you had a house paid for. You had retirement. You had your car paid for. Your kids had gone through college. And that's another thing. All these kids that see these people now that are seniors and they see what they got, that they worked for their whole lives, they want it now at 21. I want what they got now. No, they worked their whole time. Do your time in the trenches and figure it out. Okay, but we became equal and prosperous. There was no, when everybody's happy, there's no distinguishing between, I guess what you would say, wealthy and people are happy, people are happy. You're happy at your job? I've had high-paying jobs before, but when I was single, and I would spend so much money entertaining myself because I hated my job so much. And I found out if I took a job that paid less that I really liked, I didn't spend no money on entertainment. So it was actually like getting a raise. But in this country, we all became equal and we prospered. We are a land of laws and not a land of men. What I mean by that is laws, everybody's equal under the law. Everybody gets charged the same. Instead of a land of men where depending on your position, depends on if you get trouble or not. That's what I mean by when I say that. Okay? But now we know, like I say, we're dealing with a lot of the devil's demons. And there's a conspiracy now to take down the United States that's open about it. They're so open about it, they're willing to sit there and say, yeah, we're gunning for Trump. We're going to try to get him. Okay? So, what's that? So, we got to prepare for this. It's just, I can't believe I'm on YouTube, a social platform, talking about the world, the United States being taken over. I never thought that this could happen. Not even 20 years ago. I knew it was coming. Like I say, 1994 when I got out, but it's gone way past. bad as I thought it would get. Okay. Elections can't fix this no more. But anyway, okay. So they need to take down the United States. Now, we'll go on. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I'd whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what is bad is good and that good is square. And I would teach to pray after me, our Father who art in Washington. Yeah, that would destroy the churches. I mean, I remember church when I was a kid. Okay, I mean, everybody went to church. Seventh and eighth grade, on Wednesdays during school, you had religion class. First hour, you went to your church and you went to religion, and then you walked to school. That's the way it was. There was no problem. Nobody got upset. You didn't have anti-atheist groups. This is the thing. If you have a problem with me believing in something that makes me a better person, what is wrong with you? If you being an atheist makes you a better person somehow, I'm all for it. To be against the way I believe and how I feel, that's overstepping. That's getting in my personal space, buddy. Okay? Let's get in my personal space. But, and then, thing about the church now. All these people, they'll sit there and go to church 1 hour a month. I don't go to church. I'm very close. I'm very religious. I'm very close to God. But I have a hard time going to churches. A hard time looking at sinners that they go there to confess the sins. And they walk out that door and start screwing their secretary again. Okay? I live by the 10 Commandments. If you live by the 10 Commandments, you'll never break any law on all the law books they have. Not one of them. 10 simple rules. That's real easy to live your life by them, too. Okay? But I just don't confess your sins and then go commit the sins again. Just because I just don't think God's going to be that forgiving. You can believe in him, but you also got to sit there and try to live his word to the best of your ability. Okay? Don't be given into the pleasures of the flesh. That's another thing. These whatever feels good, right? There'll be a little bit more on that. And then about the money. I mean, back in the 80s and 90s when you had these mega churches on TV, and I don't know how that one that had the affair. I mean, they're just falling apart. It was for the money. You're going to sit there and I got to watch church, and this is what I hate. Even on the radio on Sundays when I'm in the tractor, I listen to this one church thing, and they're always asking for money, support. Become a humble person, and you'll get the support. The Lord will provide. Anyway, and then, religion is starting to be too tolerant. We're not sticking to our moral Christian values. Okay, moral Christian values are not for abortion. I'm not saying I'm going to sit there because you have freedom of choice. That's one thing about the Christian religion. You have freedom of choice, and you are responsible for your actions and the consequences for them. Nobody else is. Okay? So I don't have a right to sit there and try to, unless somebody's going to try to hurt somebody. But with abortion, that's something I'm against it, but I'm not going to take nobody to an abortion clinic. But, I'll say my little spiel and then whatever. Okay. And then, tolerant and stand on moral Christian values. The young. That's pretty self-explanatory. What was that? The young, I will whisper that the Bible is a myth. I mean, that's happening big time. Church is not a building. It's a word gather in his name. Exactly. And that's the thing. How am I supposed to go and gather in somebody's name when they're all being false? I'm not saying all of them. But, I talk to God every day, many, many times. I got plenty of time and plenty of space to do it out here. And I'm with nobody. Well, I may be a lone wolf, but I'm not really a lone wolf. Okay? He's on my right shoulder. I'm never alone. With my horses and dogs, I'm definitely never alone. But now back to the kids. Self-explanatory. They don't understand that they have a purpose in life. I mean, can you remember when our age people were going through school? By 7th and 8th grade, we were already dreaming about what we were going to do at 18, whether we were going to work, what we were going to go to college for to become. And most of us did that. Correct. Most of us did that. Okay? Nowadays, you talk to kids and you ask them, what do you want to be? Well, I don't know. And you're juniors and seniors. How do you go through life not knowing what you want to do to get out of your parents' house? Okay? Anyway, I don't understand it. Valentine, stop. I'm sorry, guys. Anyway, my dogs are being silly. Okay, they don't understand they have a purpose in life. And they're just going day by day, and they don't really have a horizon they're trying to reach. They're just following a path that gets them through day by day. Then they do whatever makes them feel good. Okay? Where was that one? I would convince them that man created God and not the other way around. Well, they don't even believe in God, so you don't have to convince them of that. I mean, I think it's important for me to believe in God. I mean, I just do. I mean, maybe I'll tell a story about when I saw the light of heaven and I wasn't allowed to come in. Imagine being rejected from heaven. So, I obviously got a purpose here. I have to do, and, whatever. I'm not going to go into it. Like that was a long time ago. It happened. Talked to my minister about it. He said it happened because but anyway, I wasn't allowed in. Said I had purpose yet. So whatever that purpose is, I don't know. Hopefully it's to organize people on YouTube so we don't lose our country on November 6th. I don't know. Anyway, in the old, what did he say about the old? I would confide that bad is good and good is square. Go have fun. Don't worry about what laws you break. You're not responsible for yourself. You get pregnant, have an abortion, and those guys that are out there living a life, raising families and being happy, you don't want to be like them because they're square. You want to be us out here like us liberals, just wasting our life away thinking we're going to be 20 the rest of our life. I mean, that's the one thing. You realize all these Gen Xers and stuff, or Zers and millennials, when they get in their 70s and 80s, if they make it that far, and that's one thing I'm predicting too, that a lot of us are going to be seeing our kids and grandkids die before us. Valentine, knock it off. Now, I know, Carol, you got 7 dogs, but, they always get excited. I just can't, with it getting dark out, I can't leave them outside. We got a lot of coyotes running around. There's mountain cougars out here and stuff. There's lots of things that can kill you. I mean, if you got elk and all that stuff, you got predators that can take the stuff down. So anyway, but yeah, bad is good and good is square. Whatever. I guess I'll just sit here and be happy being a simple man and being square. It's good for me. Anyway, and I would teach the old to pray after me, our Father who art in Washington. Now, I don't think that's going on. But with Social Security, people's retirements depending on the government, laws and regulations, especially if they're on a fixed income. I mean, you start making choices on how you vote depending on how the government's going to be treating your retirement. You see why the founding fathers didn't want none of this stuff? They knew once the government got the tentacles in one part of your life, they were going to control it, not make it better. But now we got retirees that are working in their retirement. Of course, they're going to vote for something that betters their life. You got the Democrats just out there promising, Valentine, knock it off. You got the Democrats out there just promising the world to these people. And we're going to get onto that here real quick. But, in the medical, they're relying on the Medicare, sorry about that. She's starting to drive me nuts. The Medicare, okay? And then, like I say, then they start voting for what's going to better their life. When we get to voting for our politicians, determining how it's going to benefit our life personally, they're too much personally into our lives. Okay? Next time they're going in the kennel and I'm not playing the game with them. Anyway, so that's the thing on the old. So are they worshiping Washington? No. But they're dependent on Washington for their life. It's a bad way to get yourself into, depending on somebody else for your existence, especially the federal government. And what is Social Security, $65 trillion in the hole? Unfunded liabilities. Yeah, I'm going to get my Social Security. Sure I am. Anyway, so let's move on. And then I'd organize. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. Now, this is one that I have a hard time commenting on because a lot of the stuff that I read is stuff that I already read back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. I have a really hard time with newer stuff. I just don't understand the mentality, okay? It doesn't entertain me. I don't like it. Nobody can read a book that after 50 pages you can't stand, okay? The only newer stuff I read is older Westerns, okay? So it's hard for me to comment on that. And I don't think he's talking about pornography there, okay? I don't think he's talking about that. Maybe he's talking about just sensationalizing your YouTube channel. Okay, there's not a lot of hard copy stuff no more. But, they couldn't foresee that. But, like you say, I can't really comment on that. But, I don't read the new stuff. I can't stand the new stuff. I stopped reading magazines after Mad Magazine, that type of stuff, okay? And when the Popular Mechanics and Field and Stream and all the stuff I used to do as a kid started getting political, I don't have the time for it. Okay? Anyway, so I really can't talk on that. Somebody can make a comment if they're into reading newer stuff. The last author I was really into, and this was back in the 90s, was Dean Koontz. I really liked his books. I read a lot of his books. Lightning, I think, is still one of the best ones I ever read. I read that a few times, actually. Okay, this is another one that I don't understand. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I don't quite understand what he means by that, but I don't think Hollywood needs to be nudged into the direction of putting more nudity and stuff on TV. Okay? I just don't quite understand the new TV, just like the new books. The last new show that I watched was My Name is Earl. And that was back in the early 2000s. You know, I'm a MASH, I Love Lucy, Petticoat Junction, the Beverly Hillbillies, Gilligan's Island. I got all my kids hooked on that one. My one daughter had every episode memorized. In fact, I think they all might have had every episode memorized if they want to chime in and say one way or the other. But yeah, they like Gilligan's Island. But the good stuff, you know, where we were entertained, not tried to be brainwashed. Okay? But like I say, I don't understand that because I just feel Hollywood, you know, maybe you didn't see Hollywood quite getting there where the government was going to force them to do that. But anyway, it's happening. Shameless. That show, I mean, whatever, and that's TV. I don't even have regular TV anymore. I don't even know if there's regular TV anymore. So anyway, but yeah, I don't know what's on, but I know it's just anything to push the woke agenda. That's what you see on TV these days. So, you know, that one I don't quite understand. You know, Hollywood's in it up to their eyeballs, like the government. They're all working together. They're part of the conspiracy. And if you're a conservative actor, you're not acting right now. You're being an activist, basically, for the conservative cause. Anyway, okay. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol and ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I tranquilize the rest with pills. Peddle narcotics to whom I could. Okay. We got a big drug problem in this country. I mean, fentanyl is killing people. All these hard drugs. You know, somebody wants to smoke a little bit, that don't bother me. But you're on the powders and stuff, screwing your life up. I mean, meth heads got to be one of the most harsh group of people to deal with. Okay? Anyway, peddling the drugs. I mean, we got all these Venezuela gangs and Mexican gang cartels and stuff. What are they bringing up here? Okay, I can't even believe the pharmaceutical companies are going for this. Hell, they're giving them competition. Anyway, and alcohol, the ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I don't know. After hearing this in a couple spots, I got a feeling that Paul Harvey didn't drink alcohol. But look at when he talks like that, let's think about Nancy Pelosi. You know, always drunk. And then Kamala Harris sounds like she's a lush too. Anyway, he just was a man that is against alcohol. I'm not going to sit there and condemn anybody for drinking. Personally, I don't drink. I never really did have a taste for it. When I was overseas in the Marine Corps, yeah, I did my share of drinking. But, you know, since I've been a civilian, I'm just not really much into it. Fentanyl is a huge problem, yeah. And what are they doing about it? Nothing. They won't even address the problem. Thank God I don't have no relatives that are on there. I don't even know. I don't understand that drug. I just know it's really potent and a little bit of it can kill you. I don't know if you have to have a reaction to it or if it's just that strong. I'm not sure. But, yeah, that's a problem they won't address. Okay? So, and I tranquilize the rest with pills. Where do we go with that? We are the most medicated country in the world. People taking 10, 12 pills a day, sometimes twice a day, making those pharmaceutical companies rich. I bet you a lot of baby boomers didn't realize that they were going to be giving most of the retirement to pharmaceutical companies. And a lot of it, you got to take another pill to cover the effects of one other pill. And then the effects of these pills they're taking, it'll save you one way, but kill you 10 other different ways. The only thing they had that never had any side effects, anybody remember? The COVID-19 shot never had one side effect. Not one. Did anybody ever hear a disclaimer on a COVID-19 shot? Ever? The only drug commercial you never hear a disclaimer on. All the other ones got a disclaimer. I just find that a little odd. Anyway, yeah. Just keep, like bring up Gilligan's Island. Who was one doing pills? And we all laughed at it. Mrs. Howe. That's what the rich people did because they were retarded, because they had more money than brains. But the pharmaceutical companies like, oh, we get all these other people hooked on it. I mean, how at 57 do I not have to take any pills, not have any medical problems? I mean, I realize I stayed in really good shape and stuff like that, but I mean, a lot of this stuff is being pushed on. Go to the doctor to see if you're sick. How many commercials do you see go to the doctor and ask about this medication or this treatment you need to take? I hope these CEOs one day are held accountable for what they've done. Not just for the genocide that they've done with the COVID-19 shot, but these kids' lives they ruined, putting them on these mind-altering medications. And they're making them so strong now that kids are shooting up schools. I mean, I could make a whole nother show about this after schools get about shootings we've had this week. There was another one yesterday in Kentucky along the interstate. Get used to it, everybody. But they want you to give up your guns. Okay. They got everybody drugged out. And that's why I think a lot of people are falling for this, because they're not in their right minds. They're just not. You're taking mind-altering drugs. Mind-altering. That's all I'm going to say on that, because I think they all need to be strung up right along with the politicians. And let them be buried with all their money. Then they can take it with them. Let's go on to the next one. Almost 45 minutes in, Ray and Money, halfway done. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. All right. So he's talking about creating division. Families at war with themselves. Think back to COVID-19. Can't come over for Easter, you haven't got your COVID shot. You need to leave your windows. Families just upset with each other because one drank the Kool-Aid and the other one didn't. Okay? And there's still that break in there. The mistrust. I mean, anything to split up the family. This is another thing about taking over the U.S. First, you got to rot it to the core. You rot the family. Get them mad at each other. Just like the Civil War, brother against brother. You know, like that flag back there. Yeah, I'm a Yankee. I'm from Minnesota. My forefathers fought for the North in the Civil War. I guess I would have been fighting against them. I don't believe in slavery. Okay? If the Democrats wouldn't have been around, we would have got rid of slavery long before we did. Okay? But it was another country that was standing up to the U.S. federal government. It was about the federal government wanting control over the economic situation of the South. Instead of states making business with South Carolina making a deal with anyway, the federal government just wanted to take over control of the South. It was going on for years, and this slavery was part of it. But, you know, that was one point where people finally stood up to the federal government. We had enough. And Abraham Lincoln wasn't the best president ever. He jailed people because they disagreed with him. He shut down newspapers because they printed bad stuff about him. He imprisoned people and took away habeas corpus. So they had to sit in jail without a trial. Any about this happening now? J6? I'm getting off. Anyway. Couldn't spend holidays together, split the family. Remember you couldn't see grandma in the nursing home? Even after she died? Somebody died in the hospital. You weren't allowed to see the body. This is how overboard these people went with this stuff. Convincing these people this stuff. Okay? And then splitting up the family, trying to convince kids that their parents aren't right. That the teacher's always right, the state is always right, the government's always right. Creating that division between child and parent. Okay? Bad thing to do. Very bad thing to do. Unreligious thing to do to try to come between a parent and their child. Anyway, but that's what they're doing. But then, you know, your parents are responsible for their child when they screw up. Even though you're not allowed to discipline them, spank them, tell them no, or nothing, you're still responsible for them when they screw up. Got that Georgia's school shooter's dad in jail now. The problem I have with this country is, you know, the problem is not the guns, it's the children. I had access to guns my whole life. And I was an angry kid, and I never went out and shot anybody. I knew the responsibility of a gun. I knew what a gun does. Okay? There's no question in my mind. When we got mad at each other in school, we went out in the street and fought. Nobody went to their pickup, picked out their gun, and you had a gunfight at school. God, if that was the case, our school would have been the OK Corral every week. Anyway, and then the churches at war with themselves. This is what I say, not following Christian values. People like me, I mean, I can't go to a church that believes that it's okay to marry two people of the same sex. If I sacrifice what I believe in, how I believe in God, I'm forsaking my Lord. And I'll never do that. I don't care if I got to stand alone. because they don't stand alone. Anyway, our country was founded on Christian values. That's just the way it is. Nowhere does it say you have to be a Christian in this country. But this country was founded on Christian values by the men who sacrificed and had a right to make up the rule book for this country. You know, the ones that founded it. Okay? Unlike a Muslim country where you're required to be Muslim. Sounds like freedom of religion to me. Okay? So all you people that are in these atheist groups and stuff, I'm sick of it. I'm just sick of it. Christian, you're not alone. I'll be standing with you. Well, thank you, Kristen. Anyway, and then nations at war with themselves. Does anybody feel that our nation is at war with itself? Does anybody have that feeling? Okay? The civil unrest that is coming is caused by our government trying to take over. Okay? And everybody's going to have their purpose when civil unrest comes. I mean, this is the thing, okay? It's not going to get no better. The election ain't going to make it no better. Even if Trump wins by a landslide, they're going to say Kamala Harris. We have no choice anymore, okay? We can't kick the can no further down the road. We're going to hit a brick wall on November 6th, all right? But because of the government takeover. And, I would rather be doing a lot more constructive stuff right now in my life than being on YouTube trying to organize and get people motivated to start an organized defense against these people. What would I like to do? I like to sit there and practice piano 4 hours a day. So I get on YouTube and do my piano channel and go to old folks' home on Saturday, nursing homes on Saturday nights, and play for a couple hours for the people. And then probably record that as my live program. Yeah, I'd rather do that instead of go to a foxhole and fight a bunch of commies. But I tell you what, I'm not going to retire in a country full of a bunch of commies. I didn't plan for that retirement when I was younger. Okay. Another thing, splitting this nation. This illegal immigration. It's every day, guys. We're on the Titanic, and the illegals are the water filling in the hull, and it's slowly, we're to the point where the bow's in the water already, all the way under the water. Okay? And, if you're not for it, they say you're a racist. No, I'm not a racist. I just think that anybody coming to the United States should be legal. Okay? I mean, those Venezuela gang members they arrested in Aurora. 4 of them. They're out on $1,000 bail. $1,000 bail, which they probably stole off the tenants. Yeah, it's reached the breaking point. $1,000 bail. How come they weren't deported to the border right away? This is the thing. Illegals do not have constitutional rights. They're not covered under any constitutional rights. Get them out of here. I don't want to spend one dime on prosecuting them. Send them down the border and point a gun at them and say, you come back, you're going to get a bullet. $1,000 bail. What about that father of the Georgia school shooter? Does he just get $1,000 bail? See, nation fighting itself. How else am I supposed to feel? I'm not going to become a commie. And that's all there is to it. They have split us and divided us so bad that there is no way to fix this fracture until we all get in the ring and just slug it out. I've been in enough fights and had enough dealings with men to know that sometimes the only way to settle it is just to settle it. And that's the point we're at. Okay? Anyway, oh my God, at 55 minutes. And then I've been called racist by people for my stance on immigration, but people who do not even know my race. It don't matter what race you are. This is a melting pot. Everybody here who's legal is against this. You know who's against Mexicans coming in here illegal? Mexicans that are here legally. Talk to one of them. I have friends like that. They can't stand this shit. Okay? Because they're like, I had to go through all this, and they're come up here illegally and then get money and paid and stuff. And they take over somebody's house, start taking over apartment complexes. I wish they'd come out here. But see, you know why they couldn't come out here? Because there's no place for you to live. Okay, there's very few houses where I live. But every house is probably protected by, well, a few guns. Okay? It just, I don't have to worry about that up here. And that's one thing. I live a dream life. And I got to see this stuff with the Venezuela gangs, people going through this, parents that have to deal with the children losing their lives. My family's up in Minnesota. I fret for them every day. I mean, I had to get out of there. It was so bad. Having nightmares and stuff. And then they want to make Waltz vice president of the United States. I don't think so. Like they say, if that all slides down and we don't do nothing, I'm going to live a Bigfoot. Okay? At least I know where to stand with him. It doesn't matter. I think every nation should be close to their borders by 1950s. Every single one. Take care of your fellow countrymen. Yeah. Let's bring our military home and work on our infrastructure. They want all this electric vehicles and stuff. How about getting some geniuses to start working on it instead of government controlling how fast it advances? Let the civilian world do it. Let capitalism kick in again. And like I say, I was part of it in the 80s. I hate to say it. But when I was in the Marine Corps, I traveled the world and I enforced everything doctrine that America had on, controlling other nations. Okay. But, yeah, we need to. The thing is, it's their job. Okay? It's their job to secure the borders. It's not whether something I want to do or not. Fed can secure the borders in cost in 90 days. No, they can do it in 10 minutes. Okay, remember, I'm a Marine, and I'm going to go the way I was taught to deal with invasions. Because everybody would agree we're being invaded. That means I have artillery down there. I have tanks down there. I have machine gun nests every 100 yards in there. And everybody would know the minute they got their orders to fire. And everybody follows that order to fire. 10 minutes, the problem solved. But see, that's what we don't do in this world no more. We don't solve problems. We extend problems. Keep kicking the can down the road. Then it's something we can talk about later. I'm a guy who likes solving problems. That's why I'm on YouTube. I want to organize so we can solve this problem so I can retire and be happy. And I can play piano and show wildlife videos on YouTube all day long and have a great time. And Jeff Bezos is going to get his head Benny Hilled. He's going to get his sense knocked back into him. And he's going to become a platform where everybody has a fair shake. I better not hold my breath, huh? Okay. But anyway, that's the way I feel about the border. Okay. It's breaking our country in two. And what are we going to do? And they want them all to vote. What are we going to do when they're the biggest voting bloc in the United States? They're not even going to have to shoot their way, take America over with their guns. They're just going to be able to cast a vote and take over America. Does anybody see what's coming? Does anybody see what's coming? They're going to use our system to take over our country. Maybe I am the only one that sees that. Okay, that's nation against nation. Okay, let's go on to the next one. All right. And with the promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. Well, let's just say I grew up in the days of Walter Cronkite. Walter Cronkite, those days are over with. And that's the way it is. Every Monday through Friday, I heard that. Now, Walter Cronkite wasn't a very good-looking guy, was he? But he was a good anchorman. But in today's world, probably wouldn't have happened, would it? No, you need all these seductive-looking hostesses and these so-called intelligent, well-informed, well-groomed men. Okay? And they're not even giving the news like Walter Cronkite was sitting at his desk giving the news. I didn't even know the guy was a liberal until I heard about him taking Hillary and Bill Clinton out on his yacht after the Monica Lewinsky thing. See, no, but he never exposed his side, okay? But that's what the news has come to. It's about opinions. Okay, well, how does our side feel that what this person meant when they were talking this? Or how does this side feel about it? We're going to twist the words all around. That all it does confuse everybody. And then you got this 24 hours a day. People addicted to the headlines and stuff. Just sucking people in. And then, you got all the bells and whistles of the studios now. All the setups they have like election day, the floor, the screens that push this. I mean, everything looks great. Anything to keep the audience, wow. But I didn't think he'd realize how much in bed the media would be with them. I don't know, maybe he did. But, that's what the media has turned into. Nothing but watching a bunch of propaganda all day long with a bunch of people who don't know what they're talking about. Who definitely can't identify with my life. If you're a host or hostess on a news channel and you're getting paid $10 million a year, you can't identify with me. I'm sorry, your opinion stinks. Okay? Especially when you think I need to work harder, pay more money to the government so we can give it to more illegals and give it to Ukraine so they can kill more Russians and stuff. Not happening. Okay. That's the thing on the mesmerizing studio, the media and stuff. It's nothing but Goebbels' wildest dreams coming true. And, I think they're taking his playbook to the T. The trouble is, there is a lot of people falling for it. I don't know how. I don't know how they can't see the forest through the trees, but I sure can. Okay. Let's move on to the schools. If I were the devil, I'd encourage schools to refine young intellects, but to neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild until before you know it, you'd have drug sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. This was written in 1965. Now, obviously, when he's talking about schools are indoctrination centers, okay? They want to encourage intellect the way the Nazis encouraged the Hitler Youth to be educated. That's why the Hitler Youth after World War II, you had 20-year-olds that were in fourth grade class because they weren't taught nothing. Okay? I mean, they're taught on how different everybody is, on how you're supposed to dislike somebody, on how if somebody doesn't agree with them, you have the right to kill them and stuff. Confusing him with transgenderism. You know, when I made that video about the Georgia shooter, I just made a speculation about the transgender thing, but it's just the same old record being played all over and over again. I mean, the people that they want to take the guns out of our hands, we ain't shooting up schools. Anyway, so, but they want to turn their, because all kids want to learn. Every kid's brain is just a sponge wanting to take in the knowledge they're given. The thing is, they're not filling their heads full of useful knowledge. They're filling their heads full of stuff that obviously ain't going to help them in the future. Okay? The 3 R's are out. Reading, writing, history, arithmetic. Okay? Their writing sucks. They can't comprehend nothing. Okay? Their math skills are beyond terrible. I mean, math skills that, when I was in 3rd grade, okay, my writing skills were better. I could do cursive. Since I don't do cursive no more, in 3rd grade I learned it. I could do cursive and I could do better math. In 3rd grade, my education was higher than most of the people graduating high school now. Isn't that sad? These people are going to college basically starting out at what I started out 7th grade at. I mean, how are you supposed to be independent when you can't think for yourself? You can't figure nothing out. When you just can't comprehend what's going on. Your brain can be filled full of a bunch of lies. But if you have the ability to rationalize stuff and comprehend stuff and come up with your own opinion instead of somebody else telling you what your opinion is, you become an independent person. Okay? You know, that's one thing when I was going through school, the teachers cared about you after you turned 18 because they knew you were going to, whether you left town or not, you were going to come back and visit and you were going to run into them. And every teacher that I had that I ran into, I thanked them for giving me an education. Did you ever do that to your old teachers? Now it's all about the money. You know, kids give me problems, so let's put them on pills so you can tranquilize them. They don't care about the child's adult life. If you don't give a child an education, you're really robbing them of a future, especially if that's your job. I am so sick of seniors graduating that don't know who we won our independence from. That's a simple question, a question I knew in kindergarten. But don't worry. Just throw some more money at our education system, right? That'll fix everything. I don't think so. Okay. And then about not neglecting to discipline emotion. Not knowing their boundaries on their emotion. Yeah, you can be mad at somebody, but that doesn't give you the right to harm them. Okay, sometimes standing up for yourself is better. They got these kids on mind-altering drugs. They're upset because they're getting teased, because they're not being accepted, and they break. You know, these kids can't handle kid problems, okay, which is also hard to them. Well, us adults know that the adult world isn't as easy as we thought it was when we were kids now, is it? And if we ain't challenging these children to handle children's situations, how are they going to handle adult situations? But anyway, we're telling them that it's okay to be angry. We're telling them it's okay to get nuts. We're telling them it's okay to have mental disease and encourage it. Like you say, my grandson's got to go to school in a school classroom with litter boxes. What kind of country have we become? Well, I'm supposed to accept that? That would have been a punishable. If a principal would have allowed that when I was going to school, principal, superintendent would have been gone. Anyway, and then the safety of the schools. Letting them run amok. Just let them run wild until before you knew it, you would have drug stiffy dogs and metal detectors in every schoolhouse door. It's the problem is still not helping. How did he see that in 1965? I don't understand, but he did. Okay. But, the schools are unsafe. This is because kids are unstable. 2 or 3 school shootings this last week. Okay, I know they arrested a kid. There was a Georgia one, I think Maryland or something like that. And then you got the I-75 shooting. I don't know if they found that guy or not. I haven't heard if they found the guy or not. 4 in 1 week. Anyway, but the schools are becoming prisons. And then you have people that are my age saying, yeah, we need metal detectors in school. No, that's not going to solve the problem. They have that. Schools are still being shot up. Carol, here where I live, I just installed metal detectors in every school in the county. How about we fix the root problem? See, this is what I'm saying. I'm about fixing problems. If we could sit there and take guns, rifles, pistols, and shotguns and leave them in the pickup at school, and nobody went out there to shut the school up, we need to bring those days back, not days of metal detectors and drug-stiffing dogs. See, this is a warning of what was coming, not what needs to happen. Okay? This is one thing that upsets me. More regulation. They get mad at the government for putting more regulations on stuff, but then they're for it in other ways. Let's get the kids to where they don't want to bring guns to school and shoot people up. How about we get to that point? Because metal detectors aren't going to bring us to that point. Solving whatever causing this problem is, whether it be the medication, the social pressures put on them, the transgender stuff put on them, whatever. Let a child be a child, like we were all. Let them make their mistakes and learn, and correct them when they make their mistakes, and show them their boundaries, and tell them everything they want isn't always right. And if you really want something bad enough, you got to work for it. Anyway, when your kid goes to school, you send them off to school. What are you sending them on that helicopter, on that mission? They may not come back alive. Sending them to school like sending your other son off to war. But let's get metal detectors. That'll solve the problem, right? It may help a symptom of the problem, but it's not even going to solve the problem. Schools are still going to get shot. Take away guns, they're going to start stabbing each other. Take away knives, they'll start using baseball bats and cars. You understand? Until you solve the root problem, they're going to use whatever tool they have to do what they want to do. And I'm not even a psychologist. If you would help, if schools were not only decentralized but smaller, there should never be over 1,000 kids in a single campus. When I grew up, There were 600 or 750 kids, K through 12, all in the same building. And our class was the biggest class for quite a while. We had 68 kids in our class. The class before us was like 34. The class under us was like 32. So I'm assuming that the late fall or early winter of 1967, 1968 was, or 1966 and 1967 were cold. That's the only thing I can figure, because our class size was double for the class below us and the class above us. So just something as you think of as an adult. But where I'm at here now, they used to have country schools up until the 1990s, one-room schoolrooms. The place where I'm at now is actually the site where the schoolhouse used to be. Oh, yeah. Everybody that lives around here went to school, this country school out here. One teacher, one schoolroom, up until the 1990s. I think it was, they set up in the 8th grade, you finally went to 7th or 8th grade, you went to Mullen School, which was a bigger town. My mom, she went to country school until the 4th grade. 5th grade, she started in the city and stuff. Yeah. And then teachers need to bring back discipline to their schoolroom, classroom. I mean, I watch Little House on the Prairie with my kids, and I tell my kids, that's the way the classroom was for us, and they look at me like I'm silly. Tuck by V. Somebody told me that school they graduate from over 3,800 students. That's absurd. Yeah. I mean, to have a class where you don't even know everybody in it, that's one thing too. Like that shooting that happened in Kentucky. I can't remember the name of the town, but I said it's a small town, like 7,200 people. I laugh about that because the four counties that surround us, you can't even get 7,000 people in those 4 counties. This is the least populated area in the United States of America. One person for every 20 square miles, maybe even 30 square miles. No liberals coming out here. Okay. All right. But the metal detectors and stuff. Let's solve the problem with why these students are doing this. We're just putting a Band-Aid on a symptom. I would love orderly classrooms in middle and high school. That's just a dream. Well, the thing is, when my kids are going to school, they're in their 20s, so they'll be out of school a while. But I'd go in there, right, the classroom, and there's 6 different conversations going on with the teacher at the board trying to teach the kids that are paying attention. And I wonder why kids are coming out uneducated, because nobody cares. They're all taking this test. They're given pre-tests and the answers before them. I tell you what, I can't remember what year our superintendent was. I think it might have been 4th or 5th grade I was in when the one superintendent, they still used to spank children. Okay, he actually spanked a 15-year-old kid. That's the way school was. Oh, there was nothing but ultimate respect for your teachers. I mean, that's just the way it was, because there was respect for your elders. And the thing is, it was easy to respect somebody who was trying to make your life better. Nowadays, kids disrespect teachers because I don't have any respect for them. Anybody, people have kids in school. Anybody been to a choir concert or a band concert? Your grandparents remember what it was like when we went to our band and our choirs? I was in both. We sound a lot different than they do today. Okay, they sound like the Little Rascals walking down the street. But that's because lack of education. Nobody cares. Just enough to get by. Anyway. Okay, then we'll move on. With a decade, I'd have the prisons overflowing and I'd have judges promoting pornography. Okay. Prisons are getting full of Americans breaking laws that these liberals are coming up with. You know, the Venezuela gang members, they're allowed on $1,000 bail. If you're a Democrat, you don't even have to pay bail. We'll give you a court date, but you didn't really mean to break the law, mostly peaceful protesting and stuff. Okay? Like those Agora gang members. Crazy, $1,000 bail put back out on the street. Yeah, like they're going to come back. No quick ride to the border. And one thing, our judges are compromised. Obviously, Chief Justice Robert, his time on the Lolita Express has definitely got him voting with the liberals. Oh, I'd sit there and love to have a discussion with him. Any Supreme Court justice on law and the Constitution. Okay? Because it don't matter what your political affiliation is. The Constitution is the Constitution. The Bible's the Bible. It's written in one way, plain English, so everybody can read it. Carol, I took shop class in school and enjoyed it and didn't know why they did away with shop. I took industrial arts 7th through senior year. I learned how to weld. I learned how to use a metal lathe. I did, metal wood projects every year. Heck, that one year I made a croquet set. I did a lot of work on the lathe. We learned how to do Sonny, the Bible is the Bible. The Constitution is the Constitution. Exactly. Have a blessed night, Wolf. In ninth grade, maybe it was 10th. Could have been 10th. We learned how to we actually had to make house plans. The whole thing. An actual set of house plans. The stencils, the whole work, the scale, the outside, everything. So I know how to sit there and make house plans for my own house. I learned that in school. I learned how to do my taxes as a senior. Stuff to help us out as adults. This is what I mean. A lot of the stuff our generation takes for granted just because we know. These kids actually don't know because they weren't taught, because nobody cared about their future. Okay? But back to the judges. They're compromised. Okay. I'm at an hour and 20 minutes. Oh my God, I got to get going. Okay, next. Soon I could eject God from the courthouse and from the schoolhouse and from the House of Congress. I am so sick and tired, like I say, of these people getting upset and wanting to change. And I have to sacrifice my religion because they don't believe that something I believe in that makes me a good moral person is wrong. If you don't believe, that's fine. But I believe if you don't believe, and when you go up to the gates of heaven, it's a bad time to find out the truth. Real bad time to find out the truth. Because you're going to get sent back here, do it all over again. And find out as a kid you got a purpose in life. Okay? So whatever. And then out of the courthouse. I was so busy I didn't have time, but they've had these cases where the 10 Commandments have been taken out of courthouses because atheists come in. Like I said, if you follow the 10 Commandments, you don't break any rule, law in any of them books. None of them. That's amazing. This is the thing. When God talks to you, he'll say a couple words, and it's like you just heard 3 paragraphs. So I try to make my shorts, try to say a few words to make you think a lot. But anyway, where was I here? Removing them. Are we going to stop putting our hand on the Bible when you go to trial, when you're a witness? Okay? Stop putting your hand on the Bible for when you become president, giving the oath? Yeah, I can't remember, but I was thinking about this. Did Barack Obama something? He had to do the oath twice because he screwed up, and then they did it back in the Oval Office, and so I can't remember that whole thing. Are they going to stop that? We are a country founded on Christian values and Christian morals. You don't have to follow them, but you can't stop me from exercising them. I have the freedom of religion. So do you. And I hate to tell you, but being an agnostic or an atheist is a religion too, because you just basically worship man. Anyway, okay. And then the House of Congress. Yeah, that's a place of morals. Morals of alley cats. Did the Democrats take God out of their Democratic platform? Okay, our country, our government is godless, trying to rule people that believe in God and fear God and believe in their rights given to them by God. Okay, so there's no God in the House of Congress. They just brought the Pledge of Allegiance back to the schools here. Yeah, they do it here in Nebraska. They actually have during school when the school's on. I guess I haven't listened to the radio in the last few days, but they always have a part where one of the local classes, they'll have them a spot on the radio station with them giving the Pledge of Allegiance. You go to sports events here in high school, there's a Pledge of Allegiance. Both sides stand up towards the flag after the national anthem and give the Pledge of Allegiance. And I guarantee you wouldn't be one that tries to kneel during this. You'd be escorted. If you were on a team, you wouldn't be on the team, and everybody in the stands would escort you right out of the building. You want to be a communist? There's plenty of countries for that. We're going to take our country back. Okay. Now, we're going to the next. And in his own churches, I would subsidize psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I would make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. Subsidize psychology. Be tolerant. We tell you this is the way human beings should be. We're not going to be the way God thinks you should be. We're not going to go by the wisdom of God. We're going to go by the wisdom of human beings that are eggheads. Okay? Yeah. Oh, one thing. Deify science. Deify means to put to worship, to treat as a god, something or someone as a god. Okay? Using science as a god. Remember during COVID, follow the science. Crazy. Where men's wisdom is better than God's wisdom. I don't think so. And then, like I say, churches lure priests into misusing boys and girls. The Catholic religion has a problem. These priests are pedophiles when they join the priesthood, and then it's covered up. They're allowed to get away with it. And then the next priest comes in and just says, well, I'll do what the next guy did. Okay? And it happens in other religions. I mean, the way the Muslim religion treats women. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. Girls can get married at 9. I don't think so. But, when you're using religion for sex, obviously you don't know nothing about. That's not following the commandments. That is coveting something of somebody, something of somebody's. Okay? And then the church, the money in churches and stuff. I mean, you got pastors out there that are in it for the cash. Whatever. You know, I just don't like money, okay? And I realize everybody needs money to exist in today's world, but you know, if you're a church and to make a profit, I don't know, something wrong with that. And symbol of Easter, an egg. Well, obviously the Bugs Bunny, and then you know they're not only pushing Easter as a symbol of an egg. Let's not forget that what happened at the White House this Easter. They wanted to make a symbol of something even worse. That still sickens me what happened at Easter and the flat out parading of Sodom and Gomorrah on Easter. Another day in this country where the devil was celebrating in the highest house in our land. Well, you know, us Christians are criticized for celebrating Easter. Okay. You know, if I hear any more transgender say that Christ would support transgender, I suggest they read the Bible. Okay. Jesus was pretty firm in the way he believed. And he wasn't afraid to show emotion when he disagreed with what you said. And he wasn't afraid to tell you what was on his mind. You know why? Because he had God on his right shoulder. And he knew he was in the right. Anyway. Okay. And then Christmas a bottle. See, this is where I think he may have not been a drinker. Because he does this another part where he says about a bottle. Okay, I don't quite get the reference. I would say commercial and Christmas into a commercialized holiday. That's why I would have said it more. Because remember, we all got to go out and shop for Christmas so we can save a company from going under. Because after Black Friday, they start making their money. Well, maybe we should cut the taxes out a little bit, huh? But anyway, Christmas, I think, you know, a materialistic day. It's Christ's birthday. You're supposed to be given presents for Christ. And this is one thing too. I want Christmas to go back to where you spend time to make a gift for your kid. Or whoever you're going to give gifts to. You take the time, something that's really important to you, instead of going shopping with the old plastic and choo-choo. Ooh, I got my Christmas shopping done in one day. Somebody else made everything, though. I just had to walk around and spend money. Okay? You know, Christmas is something that should be, you know, I like Santa Claus. You know, he talks about being good and stuff like that. But, you know, Santa Claus, the elves made the presents. Like I say, maybe we all make presents and start selling them instead of going to the store where Santa brought them all so we can make the store rich, you know, whatever. You know, I remember Christmas, going to church, Christmas Eve, going to church, having a Christmas program all those kids put on for the parents. And then we go down the basement and get our bags of peanuts and candy. And we go home that night and we'd eat all our peanuts and candy. And we were able to open our presents on Christmas Eve, so we were up all night. The good old days when things were sane. Okay, let's go on. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have, and I would give to those who want it, until I killed the incentive of the ambitious. And I would bet that I could get whole states to promote gambling as a way to get rich. Well, I don't know how much more you can describe the welfare system as in that. And remember, the welfare system was just in its infancy when he wrote this. It wasn't the mad dog we got. Teak by V. Wife and I have been putting focus on spending the day quietly together, having a nicer supper. We can afford many gifts and don't want to either. Yeah. I mean, enjoy. See, this is the one thing. Now, I'm probably going to have to go through life. I've been divorced 3 times. I can't get a woman that wants to live next to a stream. But, my dream was to sit on the porch one point in my life in a rocking chair with my person I've been with for 50 years and just reminiscing about life and realizing how lucky I was through life. The important things, the things you can take with you when you finally are the point to your life where you're content. Not to the point where it's bad, but you're just happy. You don't need the bells and whistles and frills in life to make you happy. The simple things in life make you happy. And then you're not always trying to attain happiness by buying the next newest toy. I got to take a drink. It's an hour and 35 minutes. I appreciate everybody staying here with me. I knew it was going to be a long one tonight. But, it's words that have to be said. Okay. I would, and then, us working. I'm sick of the government, the politician getting up there, promising to take money from me and give it to somebody else to buy votes. My pay should be between me and my boss, nobody else. The government should have no idea what my boss pays me. I should be taxed on how I spend my money. That's a fair tax. You get to our age, where you basically have everything you want. You don't spend a lot. I mean, I have no bills or credit cards or loans or nothing. I got my car insurance bill and my cell phone bill. Why should I have to pay all these taxes? I mean, if I actually had to pay taxes, on my $500 or $600 a month I spend, but we can't have that. That'd be too fair. Anyway, but all these people just entitlement mentality. I'm breathing, so you owe me a life. I'll tell everybody what my short is going to be tomorrow. Your pursuit of happiness does not include access to my wallet. Why should a politician be able to steal from me and choose who the winner is? Get to pick the winners and the losers. When you take enough taxes from people every month where they can make a house payment, which would stimulate the economy a lot more than the taxes you take from me. Okay? I'm sick of paying for people that don't want to make it in life. I live where I live. These ranchers are getting so desperate that they'll take you if you're green. If you're willing to work. And you get a house with no bills, with heat and air conditioning. And you get beef from the place. And you get a pickup to drive if you got a driver's license. You got everything you need to sustain life. All you got to do is want to work. Okay, one party says here, until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. That's one thing you're never going to do. You're never going to kill my incentive to succeed. I have a lot more dreams I want to accomplish, a lot more horizons I need to reach in my life before I take that, before I go up to the pearly gates. And I'm not going to let nobody step in the way of me not achieving them, especially the government. Okay? But I don't think you can take... our country would never survive. I had said back, I was working for this farmer who was a retired banker out of Denver. He had a lot of money and stuff. And I liked talking to him because he was intellectually stimulating. Okay, I have a hard time talking to people that don't make a lot of sense. They just really don't know what's going on. But we were talking one day. And I said, you know what happens? When this country goes down? When the average man like me, and I said him too, because even though he was rich, he was still out there with me every day and stuff. And I said, when we stop going to work, that's when this country fails. I just don't believe we can reach it to where I don't even want to succeed. Okay, I had really good jobs. I had a job where I was paying $1,000 a month just in federal income tax. But I was getting punished for succeeding. I was having to find ways to hide money so I wouldn't have to pay taxes on it. I don't live a life like that. It's crazy time. I'd rather be poor I can't handle the stress of having money. It's just the way it is. I've had plenty of times in my life to be extremely wealthy and famous, and I've turned them down because I'm a simple man with simple pleasures. And anybody knows me that this is the thing. If I had a lot of money, I'd just be giving a lot away, helping a lot of people. I don't need a lot. Like Forrest Gump said, you only need so much for yourself for showing off. The rest is for, that's the way I would be. Try to better people's lives. I hated working overtime because of tax hit. I felt like it was for nothing. Exactly. At my job on holidays, we got paid double time. And after that one check, I told the boss, I said, I do not want double time again. Talk about robbing your paycheck. I think I'm out there sacrificing so I'm getting paid more when the only one that's making out is the federal government. We need to do away with the IRS, okay? Completely. Absolutely, completely. If I was president, that'd be my first day. The IRS would be closed down. All these businesses that have all this extra expense that they have to deal with because of the IRS would be gone. Here, your guy worked this many hours and so much you pay him this week, write him his check. If I choose not to pay my taxes, the government comes after me, not my boss. Anyway, it's bullcrap. You get punished for succeeding. Unless you're in a special club that really succeeds, then you're good. Okay? Then you're good. And then about gambling. And what would you bet I could get whole states to promote gambling in a way to get rich? Well, obviously gambling's worth, I like playing bingo. I ain't gonna lie to you. But bingo is probably one of the cheapest things you can do nowadays. You can sit there and play every game. You can sit there and have your meal at the deli and still be cheaper than a night at the movies. And guess what? I don't have assigned seats when I go to the bingo hall. But, that's for us older people. But anyway, then gambling. What's the biggest casino in America? Anybody? Anybody? Where they want you to put all your money? Anybody? The stock market? The biggest roulette wheel there is? They're talking about all the $1 trillion was lost that last day. It wasn't lost. It was transferred. It's not like the money blew away in the wind. Okay, yeah, Wall Street. It's not like the money blew away in the wind. The wealth got transferred from you to the rich guy. They took your money and told you you lost it. You want to invest in the future? Invest in yourself. To give your money to somebody else, when you especially know the way corporate America is nowadays, and say, I'm going to give this to you, hoping you're going to make me more money. Okay, you need to be spending your money on what you need to survive. What's going to be important? Because when this all goes down, remember after the Iraqi war, and all that money with Saddam Hussein's face on it, how much was that worth again? Do you want to be in the position where you have I'm not a financial advisor. But I'm just saying, and I don't think you need money to pay your bills. I understand that. Not everybody's in my situation where you're debt free. Okay, but I don't know. I don't like money. I don't like money. But having $1 million in the bank when this all goes down and it's not worth anything, isn't going to help you not out at all unless you got a wood burning stove. People say that could never happen. Yeah, it can. Yeah, it can. Just us go the dollar losing its reserve currency will throw us into third world status overnight. And then we're going to have all sorts of problems. Okay. Yep. I've never bought stocks, never will. I'd rather have 100,000 in tools and stocks. Yeah. Anything that's going to promote you. I believe that you should protect your wealth. How I would protect my wealth is in stuff that I can see, stuff that I can feel, stuff that's going to be worth more now or later than now. Land. I can see it. I can feel it. Okay. I go and walk on it. Okay. Gold. But the thing about gold, you're going to put it all in gold and silver. That's fine. But if that's all you got and you come up to me in SHTF and want a chicken, if I give it to you, if I feel that chicken is worth any gold, it's going to be a lot. So the value of gold is going to vary differently depending on the situation it's in. And gold is heavy. It's just these people buying up all this paper gold and stuff and then keeping the price down. And with silver, the reason that can't raise in price like it should is because it's industrial metal now. That's why. Could you imagine paying $10,000 for a TV set or $5,000 for a cell phone? Well, let's talk about solar panels. So everybody wants, $500 silver. What's going to happen? When silver's used as strictly money-wise again, it will go up in price. Yeah, paper metal is absurd. I don't even know how you can sell that. I wouldn't buy gold unless I gave somebody some money and he gave me the gold in the other hand. No way otherwise. No way. And I definitely ain't going to buy gold from China because you don't know what's in the middle of it. Okay. But yeah, Wall Street's the biggest roulette wheel there is. But don't worry, stick your money into it. We're insisting on that 401k. All these people bragging about a 401k. Well, okay. You got to pay money on it after you pull it out. Carol Prince. I didn't even own a TV. I did away with that years ago. Well, I own a TV, but like I said, I watch a lot of Little House on the Prairie, Magnum PI, the old Star Trek, Petticoat Junction, Mama's House, isn't that with Vicki Lawrence? Stuff like that. And I got all the old seasons TV shows bought, All in the Family. That's one thing. I watched that TV show, and the same problems they had in the 1970s are the same problems we have now. The politicians haven't fixed nothing. How's that war on poverty there going, Johnson? We spent a lot of money on it. How's it worked out? Making everybody equal at the bottom, isn't it? Anyway, let's go on to the next one. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. Basically, don't be a good person and don't be a good American. Pleasure of the flesh. Follow whatever crazy thoughts you had at the time. George Washington was assessed about proper protocol. I'm sure you all heard the story about his main book he read was being proper etiquette. These people don't care. I mean, when you can walk around in public the way some of these look, they obviously don't care about themselves or their future. Teak by V, I have a TV, but we go days without using it. I don't watch TV. I got a DVD player and I watch old stuff. I can't stand the new stuff at all. But I still like my old shows. Yeah, I got a lot of memories. Gilligan's Island, I got to see. That's how my kids got to know it so well. But I tell you what, they really liked that one. But, it's just a form of entertainment. It takes me back. I love watching movies from the 80s. It takes me back before cell phones and computers. It helps you reminisce. Yeah. I heard CBS is still making tons of money off of I Love Lucy reruns. Good stuff never goes away now, does it? But I'm sure you're not going to see Shameless on TV in 40 years. Anyway, but yeah, just be a bad person. Don't be a patriot. Okay, because right now being a patriot's a bad thing, remember. We're domestic terrorists. Whatever you want to call us. Back in 1775, they were called a lot of things too. But in 1781, they found out that the bad guys were the right guys. Just the way it is. But I'm going to be an extreme patriot. I am definitely going to be a moral person. And I'm going to be a hardworking person. Because those things, once I got my life straight and figured everything out, have led me to great things. And a lot less problem and a very happy life. So I'm not going to become a lesser person to please somebody else. Okay. I would convince the young that your marriage is old-fashioned and that swinging is more fun. Let's just say that I'm a very old-fashioned guy. I believe in one girl and one guy. And that's ended every one of my marriages. Being obnoxious and disrespectful is the norm in many places now. Such people want respect but never give it. Yeah. Respect is earned. It's not, oh, hi, my name is George. I respect you now. No. Or you say this or not. There's a lot more to it. It's not a position. In the Marine Corps, to salute all standards, even if you didn't like the person, you respected his position or rank. And then that's what you were saluting. But most of the time you respected the person. That's what you saluted them for that too. Okay? But these people these days, respect. Teak by V, never known any couples whose relationship survive single. It's a poisonous pill. I'm a type of guy who can't sleep with somebody unless I love them. It's more, it's not wham, bam, thank you, man, pleasures of the flesh. That's empty relationship. Okay? I give respect when respect is given to me. Yeah. And that's the thing, we're getting up on our age. When we were kids, you were an elder, you got respect. Nowadays, these kids talk down to us. We're in their way. We're Gen Xers and baby boomers. We don't know what the world's really about. Except all of them want what we got. But they don't want to take the path we took to get here. No, I don't want to work hard, okay? Like I say, from the time you get out of high school till your kids leave the house, you're in the trenches, buddy. You're the backbone of America. You're becoming instead of a Democrat, you're becoming a conservative. That's when people become a conservative. When they start actually living life. They say, when you're 21 and you're not a Democrat, you don't have a heart. When you're 40 and you're still a Democrat, you don't have a brain. Just the way it is. It's called maturing. Getting wiser in life. Can't live your life like a child anymore. Then your life starts going better. And somebody being mad at you because your life is going good and their life sucks, well, instead of them being mad at you, that ain't going to better them. Start emulating you. Getting up early every morning, going to work every day. That's the first thing about getting your life straight when it's falling apart. Getting up and going to work every day. But anyway, yeah, the moral fabric of the country is falling apart because everybody's in for what makes me feel good now. Remember, let me love who I want to love. Almost 2 hours. I'm sorry, everybody. I knew it was going to be a long. Okay. That's what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I will undress you in public and will lure you in bed with diseases from which there is no cure. And I would take this symbolic, not literally. Luring you in bed with the devil with temptations to give you diseases in your life that you're never going to recover from. That's what's going down in this country. Anyway, this man saw this 59 years ago. Great live tonight, Wolf. No apologies. I know. It's just, I can see I'm feeling motivated, extra. Time is running short. These people don't care. Well, those people that got a safe room think they're safe from the people they're siding with. No, they're not. If you don't have a purpose in their new world, you're not going to exist. You'll be weeded out. People we all know the election's going to be stolen. We all know that the Trump is going to win. So we all know on November 6th, we got to come up with a decision. Am I going to give in and become a commie? Or am I going to stand up and become a patriot? Both ways could kill me. But I know if the commies take over, I am a dead man. Not only because I'm a trained Marine, but because I'm on YouTube speaking my piece and I'm a patriot and I'm calling for organization to stand up to these people. Which I can't even believe I'm still on YouTube. Absolutely, I can't believe it. I can say whatever I want. Yeah, YouTube hammers me down sometimes. Like the short of me trimming Beauty's hooves. What's offensive about that? Is it offensive because a grown man is showing himself doing manual labor, doing a man's thing? Is it intimidating some people? Because that thing's put on the feed a whole 12 times. A whole 12 times. But me picking up bales with the bale processor, 22,000. And YouTubers are going to say algorithm isn't kicking in. It doesn't matter. On November 6th, it's all going to blow up. All the support the Democrats are trying to say they don't have. You have completely woke, people now going on YouTube saying they're going to vote for Trump, realizing they've been suckered. And this is the hardest thing for somebody who's been suckered, to admit it, just like somebody who's been scammed, to admit it, accept the guilt for it, and become a better person because of it. But now you're starting to see the videos on YouTube, colored hair and everything. Anyway, we're going 2 hours. Anyway, everybody have a good night. I'll be putting out, like I say, videos every day this week. Be live on Friday. And then Saturday, I plan on starting up that other channel thing I talked about. I got to look into that. But I think I come on YouTube and have a good time. But then again, on the East Coast, I don't know who's going to be up at midnight or 1 a.m. to listen to me. But anyway, everybody have a good night. Appreciate everybody being here. Spread the word. If he saw it in 1965, I saw it in 1994, and people can't see it now, they still need to be saved, okay? Anyway, everybody have a good night. This is the Lone Wolf Prepper, out.